Hello again, folks. So I'm going to be filling up a lot of pots, as you can tell. I'm going to be putting some flowers out front, but what that means is I go through a lot of potting mix. So what I do is I buy it here in these big bales. These are compressed. They're probably about 80 to 100 pounds dry. Don't ever get them wet or you won't lift them. But what you got to do is cut them open, break them up, and fluff them up before you can use them. It's compressed and packed down, sort of like a brick. So I'll show you how we do that. All right, let's take a look at this potting mix here and see what we got. So we just slice the bag open. So this again is just a pure potting mix. It's peat moss, perlite, and some lime to neutralize it. There's no fertilizer, no compost, nothing else. This is called a soilless mixture. So as you can tell, it's very dense. It comes out as these bricks. And then what you got to do is just break them up by hand. To chop it up, fluff it. They compress it so it stores better, but you get a lot more this way. This is also how those coconut core bricks are sold. They're sold compressed and you have to break them up. Now it's also very dry, so this will take a lot of water. So when we first water, we're going to want to really gradually add water. If you put too much in right now, it'll just float and wash away. So you got to slowly moisten the soil, and this will soak up at least 2 or 3 times its weight in water. So this is all fluffy now and ready to use. It went from this to this. So just break it up. Alright, let's plant some flowers here today. So what I'm going to do is start out with a pot here. I'm going to get some compost I got from the backyard, and I like to put compost on the bottom because it helps absorb excess water. It also helps kind of regulate the moisture of the soil, and it's also very nutrient rich, so the roots can kind of grow down into it. So this is just mostly just leaves that have been ground up and sat for 1.5 years in a pile. So I'll start by putting them down first. Next, I get some of this potting mix here from the bale that I showed you from earlier. I just kind of break up the chunks and fluff it just a little bit. It's very compressed, so just do that a little bit. It breaks up easily, but this way just a little more volume for the weight. You know, that way the lighter and fluffier your soil is, the more the roots can grow. So do that, put a little bit more in. There we go, that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of organic fertilizer. Just a little bit, not much. Because this has no fertilizer in it. This is mostly just sort of a place for the roots to grow. And it's sort of a conduit for nutrients and water. It holds that, but it doesn't really contain a lot of nutrients itself. So we add a little bit of fertilizer to it. Now this is good, this is ready to plant. Now, I'm going to put some flowers in here. So, I've got a couple different kinds. This is going to be a little bit shady, so I'm going to be putting this lobelia in. I thought it was kind of pretty. It's got a nice purple, sort of violet color. And it's shade tolerant. So what I'm going to want to do is bury it up to about here. I'm also going to put in a dahlia. Now this is a multicolor dahlia mix. So I think, you know what, I think I'm going to put in this beautiful red one right here. So we've got the purple and the red. I think that's pretty good. These are definitely root bound and they need to be transplanted. Now, the last one I'm going to put in is a marigold. And the reason for that is that this tends to deter pests and animals. They don't like the smell. It's very pungent. So I put that right here at the highest position. So any deer that tries to come along and browse, or rabbits, gets a good whiff of that and says, you know, maybe I don't want this after all. We'll see if it works. So these are your flowers. Now we just got to make sure to water it slowly. Now let's do another flower pot here. Again, I'm going to start with the compost on the bottom. This is nutrient rich and it helps hold in a lot of water. It's not fully broken down, but in some ways that's good because it'll break, as it breaks down, it releases more nutrients, but it's on the bottom so it doesn't overwhelm the plant either. They can sort of draw their roots down into it to get that extra oomph that they need. You got to break it up. It comes out in these big chunks. You want to try to make the potting mix as light and fluffy as you can, because that's how roots grow better. You know, the roots don't want to have to work to dig into the soil. So the less they have to work, the better they grow. Again, we're just going to put a little bit of organic fertilizer in here. You always want to make sure that when you pour organic fertilizers, that you're not downwind of them. So just be mindful of which way the wind blows. And then just ever so slightly stir it in. Let's try one of these blue lobelias. They're shade tolerant. Almost a purple, but I think it's still blue. So we'll do one of those. Again, that's very root bound. These have been sitting in a greenhouse for probably months and months, so they'll be happy to get in the ground here. Let's do another dahlia. I don't know what, let's get a mystery color. This pack is sort of a mix, so they can be anywhere from yellow to pink to red to orange. Let's get a mystery one. This one hasn't flowered yet, so we'll find out what color it is. Put this in. You want to bury up to the leaves. And then finally, of course, let's do a marigold. This way it deters pests, especially deer and rabbits that like to browse. We'll put that right here. So they got to get a nose full of marigold if they try to get in here. All right, that's another pot done.
So their flower power is no match for my glower power.